In most gacha games, 5-star weapons would be considered as essential in achieving the max potential of a character or to just allow them to perform at a high level. So of course, obtaining a signature weapon for a character would definitely be something to consider, but it can be costly. However, with Wuthering Waves having one of the best weapon systems ever, it significantly reduces the pressure on having to pick up as many signature weapons as you would need to pull for than in other gacha games. Also, with signature weapons constantly releasing alongside new characters, it is commonly asked whether you should pull for a signature weapon. So with that, I'll be going through how to determine whether you should pull for a signature weapon, which may help with your decision on picking up Zhezhi's and Xiangli's signature weapons, the value 5-star weapons hold, and the weapon system just being extremely free-to-play friendly in Wuthering Waves. Just before we jump into it, would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel for more Wuthering Waves content and drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Now, the value of 5-star weapons in Wuthering Waves is a lot more significant in comparison to majority of other gacha games, due to reasons such as being extremely free-to-play friendly and since the 4-star weapon alternatives aren't exactly the greatest. Now, what I mean by free-to-play friendly would be the flexibility they have of being great on more than just the character the weapon was made for. Taking a look at a few signature weapons and their passives, the first bonus effect that is stated is an increase in attribute damage by 12%, and if it's not that, it would be a bonus effect such as a 12% attack increase. Now, these weapons could have easily been made to be much more specific, and instead of an increase in attribute damage bonus, it could have been electro damage bonus or spectral damage bonus, and so on. So the fact that every signature weapon until now has an effect that can benefit any character just places a lot of value on them and makes them even more worth it to pull for. Of course, following the first bonus effect will be bonus effects that are tailor-made for the character the weapon is made for, which other characters would be unlikely able to fully utilize, but that is to be expected. However, some characters may still benefit from the additional bonus effects, such as with Danjin and the Blazing Brilliance, which is Changli's signature weapon, since the weapon will provide a 12% attack increase with up to an increase of 56% resonant skill damage. So Danjin, that is a resonant skill damage focused DPS character, will be able to fully utilize Changli's signature weapon. So essentially, as more characters do release, some signature 5-star weapons would go up in value, since there will be more characters that are able to fully utilize the effects of signature weapons. Now, in addition to 5-star weapons having non-specific effects for multiple characters to use, the ability to switch weapons between characters in endgame content is another massive reason behind their value. The modes where players are able to really test out their skills and the performance of the characters to the fullest would be in Tower of Adversity and Hologram bosses. With Tower of Adversity specifically, you are required to run 3 teams minimum to complete it. So the fact that you are able to switch weapons and even echo sets before proceeding with the second and third team in Tower of Adversity just makes the WuWa weapon system one of the best in gacha gaming, as you wouldn't need to summon and invest in multiple weapons, which will require a ton of resources. So you would just be able to pick up a character, and if you already have a premium 5-star weapon for that character's weapon type, you can simply slot the weapon on them and they'll be ready to go. So the amount of time you would also save from grinding resources to invest in multiple weapons is completely cut out, which provides players with more freedom on what they want to do in the game. Now, as great as the 5-star weapons are in Wuthering Waves, a massive reason for their value would be due to how significantly worse the 4-star weapons are. In Hoyoverse games, they tend to drop new 4-star weapons often, and some 4-star weapons are quite close to the value of signature weapons. Whereas in Wuthering Waves, they have a significant drop off in damage and we still haven't received a new 4-star weapon. Also, in general, weapons with crit main stats tend to be the most valuable for characters other than supports. But there are hardly any 4-star weapons that provide crit main stats and instead provide a generic attack percent main stat. So there is quite an issue with 4-star weapons being slightly underpowered, which naturally would just make 5-star weapons seem even more valuable and worth pulling for. However, considering the fact that weapon banners are guaranteed to drop the signature weapon you are after, and even the standard weapon banner guaranteeing you the exact weapon you want kinda makes up for the fact that 4-star weapons are a bit underpowered. So as much as Hoyoverse games do provide better 4-star weapons and alternatives to the signature, Wuthering Waves does make it much more easier to pick up signature weapons and for us to achieve the max potential of characters, which shows how free-to-play friendly it is in comparison to other gachas. Now with amazing 5-star characters dropping left, right and center, picking up their signature weapon would definitely be something to take into consideration. But you may not be so sure on if you should pick up the signature weapon. Now this will depend on account to account, as you will have different characters, different weapons and different preferences. As I mentioned earlier, the brilliance of 5-star weapons in Wuthering Waves is that they can be switched between characters, and due to the flexibility they hold, would be amazing on multiple characters. Of course, the signature weapon for characters will be the most valuable since it is tailor-made, but a difference of 10 to 15% in value between the signature and another premium 5-star weapon might not be worth going the full 80 pulls for. So if you already have a premium 5-star for a certain weapon type, and you pull for a character that is able to use the weapon you already have which you may be using on another character, to be most efficient with your Ashtrites you would want to use the weapon on both characters. For example, with Zhezhi that has recently released, her signature weapon is amazing with a 72% increase in crit damage as the main stat, along with providing a boost in attack and basic attack damage bonus. However, Yinlin's signature weapon is another amazing 5-star weapon with a 36% crit rate main stat, along with a 12% damage bonus increase and up to a 24% increase in attack. So the fact that Zhezhi is able to utilize the stats on Yinlin's weapon makes it a great alternative option to her signature weapon. There is roughly a 10% difference in value between the two weapons, which goes back to the argument if the 10% difference in value really is worth a potential 80 pulls. So whether you already have a premium 5-star alternative would be a huge factor in whether you should pull for a signature weapon. Additionally, 5-star weapons with crit stats specifically would be the most valuable weapons for main DPS and sub DPS characters. So if you have a signature 5-star weapon with either crit rate or crit damage, which every signature weapon until now has received, means you would be able to comfortably use the same weapon across multiple characters. So essentially, if you already have a weapon with a crit main stat for a certain weapon type, there would be less reason for you to pick up another weapon for the same weapon type with a crit main stat. Now the roles of characters will also have some impact on the priority of 5-star weapons you should pick up. With support and sub DPS characters, they will last the longest, due to the amount of flexibility they have and having abilities in their kits that allow them to be somewhat future-proof. So picking up 5-star weapons for those roles would definitely hold the most value long term. However, main DPS characters rely on 5-star weapons the most, since they are on the field the longest and would be the character to rely on to deal the most damage within the team. Sub DPS characters like Yinlin would be great for dealing burst damage and coordinated damage off field, but the main bulk of damage will come from the main DPS. So 5-star weapons for main DPS characters would be priority, and even more so since the 4-star alternatives, as I mentioned earlier, aren't the greatest. So with Zhang specifically, his signature weapon provides a crit rate main stat, a 12% attribute damage bonus and a 48% liberation damage bonus. So if you don't have the Abyss Surges being the only other 5-star gauntlet and you are completely free to play, meaning you wouldn't have picked up the battle pass, the next best weapon would be the Holo Mirage, which has an attack main stat and provides a small boost in attack and defense with the passive. So the difference in value is enormous and really places a ton of value on Xiangli's signature. So for main DPS characters you plan to main long term, it would definitely be worth considering the signature weapons as priority. After that, you should just really prioritize picking up weapons for characters in other roles that you will plan to use long term. And with those weapons, you will be able to switch them around on other characters. Lastly, wanting to pick up weapons for characters you like and just enjoy playing with is also definitely something to consider. So you should still pick up signature weapons for characters you really enjoy playing with if that's what you value the most. Now more specifically into should you pick up Zhezhi and Zhang Liao's signature weapons. If you already have Yinlin's signature weapon, then picking up Zhezhi's may not be the most efficient play for your Ashtrites, since Yinlin's signature weapon is an amazing option already. However, if you don't have Yinlin's signature weapon, it would then be worth picking up Zhezhi's signature weapon. And even more so since Zhezhi holds a ton of longevity due to her role and kit. With Zhang Liao's weapon, since he is a main DPS character, his weapon would hold more value since he would rely on the signature weapon more than Zhezhi. So if you do plan on maining Zhang Liao, picking up his signature weapon would be ideal. especially since the only 5-star alternative is the standard banner 5-star, which also doesn't have a crit main stat. So it really just depends on what your account already has and who you plan to main long term. So with that, the weapon system in Wuthering Waves is just an amazing aspect of the game, since it provides lots of freedom with the characters you are able to play, being able to avoid having to summon for multiple weapons and investing into them, which is pretty time consuming, and just having more Ashtrites for 5-star characters instead. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel for more Wuthering Waves content, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Also drop a comment down below on your thoughts on the weapon system. Do you think it's perfect, or are there any improvements you would like to see implemented? And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.